Yeah, Aditya, we are live now. Uh, Good evening, everyone. I am Manish Gupta and I am here on behalf of the National Law Training Institute. Today we have among us Aditya Bhargava, who scored an All India rank of 85 and is in NLS right now. He prepared the English section for our NLTI Mock 1. And you must have noticed that in coaching institutions, what usually happens is we are the ones who make mocks, and the faculty or other person analyzes it. But at NLTI, the person who is the examiner, who is testing you through questions, will be the one analyzing the mock alongside you, and will let you know like how to see the paper through the examiner's eye and what was the examiner looking for you when the question was made. So yeah, Aditya, I'll hand over to you. I'll share the screen also, and please guide our aspirants as to how the English section could be aced.
Right. So first of all, thank you, Anish and NLTI for taking this initiative. Because to be very honest, when I was preparing for CLAT, I prepared for CLAT for 2 years. But I think there is always this problem that we face as aspirants that the person who is analyzing the paper hasn't really gone through the paper really well, right? So I think today that won't be the case. So I hope that whoever has joined this live session today has gone through the paper. So before we go ahead and discuss questions, I would like to probably start off by giving you a general overview of what the section looked like. So I talked to a few people who gave the paper. So according to them, that the section was lengthy, something that was the case with CLAT 22 as well. Majority of the questions was easy to moderate. The passages though were long, but they were kind of easy. They were easy reads and something that was easy, very easy to comprehend. The good thing that people liked about our paper was that we had given passages from all the fields, right? There were some passages from economics, there were passages from current affairs, international issues, etc. uh, uh, Asking a few people about it, the general overview that I got was that a good attempt in this particular section would have been around 25 plus questions, and a good score would have been around 20 plus, considering that you're aiming for top 5 NLUs. Sectional cutoff time, right? So this is something that I wanted to emphasize on. There is a probability that somebody would have aced the English section, would have gotten a lot of questions correct, but the condition should have been that you would not have spent say, more than 30 minutes in the entire section. Otherwise, there is a probability that you would have kind of not done as good as the English section in the other sections, right? So that was the general overview. Let's try to go over the passages once. The first passage was about micro and macroeconomics. It was a long passage. Generally, Clatt tells us that they would be giving passages that are generally of 450 words. However, the reason I kept the word limit to be slightly higher, like a 50, 60, 70 words higher than what is expected in Clatt, is because that I wanted you guys to be prepared for at least longer passages, because I really don't have a control over the quality of questions, because I ultimately know that there is a set quality that the CLAT is going to also maintain. However, what I tried to do was to give you slightly lengthier passages so that you are more comfortable doing shorter passages. So the first passage was about macro and microeconomics. It was a simple read. It just differentiated between what micro and macroeconomics was and gave you an idea that how there is an interdependence between both the fields of economics. I had taken it from the IMF report, and the ideal time to probably do all the 5 questions of this passage was something around 4.5 minutes. Second, this passage, plight of Sans community in Namibia, is something that has been in news. The length was around 520 words again. The source was Indian Express, and again, 5 minutes was something that you could have aimed for to complete the passage. Third, again, an interestingly, launch of iPhone and the market dynamics. Longer read than the first 2 passages, and it gave you a lot of statistics also. So I would slightly say that around 5 minutes was good enough. But it was taken from Washington Post. Then naming of institutions in Shimla. This was a shorter read taken from the Tribune, and ideally you should have probably taken around 4.5 minutes to complete the. Then this passage, the fifth passage, something that was really close to my heart. And as soon as I read it before, like, as soon as I read it, I thought that I should give this in the paper, because generally this is the kind of passage that you really don't expect. Again, a long read, a good use of vocabulary was there in this passage. So I think that this was the passage in the entire section that you could have probably given slightly higher than like 5 minutes, because of the sheer length and the good vocabulary used in the passage. Sixth, I think, was the easiest passage of all, something that has been in news, something that everybody has been talking about. So I would say that this was that passage which could have been done kind of faster as compared to the other passages. It was also taken from the Indian Express, and I would say that it you could have kind of spent around 4 minutes on this passage. So overall, around 30 minutes for the entire section. And I think if you gave 30 minutes, and if you were able to read all the six passages and you were able to attempt the questions, you should have gotten a score of above 20. Right. Now, let's move to the first passage now. So the theme of this passage was economics. I won't read each and every line. I would like I would like straightly go to the questions, because I'm assuming that you are attending this session because you have like already given the paper, right? So let's see the question. Let's see question one. Question one talks about, as per the passage, macroeconomics is essentially concerned with. All right, they are talking about macroeconomics. So first of all, let's see how we are eliminating the options that are not correct. In this case, B is the correct option, which says that improving the performance and efficiency of the economy. The line is directly given in this particular portion of the passage, which says that we focus on societal objectives like full employment, inflation management, and economic growth rather than the welfare or actions of particular people or groups. Understanding and enhancing the performance of the economy as a whole is the primary goal of macroeconomics. So, through that line, the answer becomes option B, whereas something like gross domestic product is completely out of scope because nothing has been talked about with respect to GDP in the passage. C is again vague because the living standard part has also not been talked about. Projections of the future economy, though, might be talked about. However, it is not the main part of what macroeconomics deals with, right? Hence, in this case, option B is the correct answer. Easy question. I am assuming that anybody who's read the passage would have gotten it correct. Now, again, central idea question for this passage. Central idea is again like a very important tenet of the entire paper. A lot of questions have been asked and will be asked in future also, that talk about central idea, main purpose, etc. So let's see. Uh, in this case, option A is the correct option, which says that the two facets of economics, macro and micro, cannot be separated, because the passage talks about the same thing, right? If you read paragraph 5, it says that in truth, micro behavior influences macroeconomic outcomes, and macroeconomic outcomes influence micro behavior. Therefore, until one comprehends how and why each member behaves, one cannot fully comprehend how an economy functions. This is your main point of the passage, right? Hence, the answer will be A. We will eliminate options B, C, D by, let's see, option B first. Microeconomics is distinct from macroeconomics and both are completely unrelated. No, this is exactly the opposite of what is being said in the passage. Second, let's see option C. Behavior of individuals and firms is outside the ambit of economic studies. No, it is very much inside the ambit of economic studies, and it is a part of what macroeconomics deals with. D. In terms of potential research prospect, academicians have given microeconomics precedence over macroeconomics. There is no mention of this line in the passage at all. So this is the way we are eliminating option B, C, and D. Hence, option A is the correct answer. I will go through the YouTube questions later. If you guys have any doubts, you can write them down in the chat box. I'll go through them like towards the end. All the following statements have been discussed in the passage except. So the first rule that you are supposed to apply here is that you have to read the questions very carefully. You should not miss this word except, otherwise the entire question will go wrong. Right. So now we have to check which of the following has not which of the following has been not discussed in the passage. The reason for compartmentalizing economies into two different branches. Yes, this is something that has been talked about when the author says that it is for convenience sake that macroeconomics and microeconomics have been compartmentalized. Hence, we eliminate this, the interdependence of one branch of economics with another. That is something which is the main point of the author, right? So, it's again, something that has been discussed. One of the focal points of microeconomics is to determine how much to produce. Again, something that has been discussed, where in this line, on the other hand, microeconomics focuses on particularly spending choices made by individual consumers and the dynamics that shape those choices. Hence, A, B, C are something that have been discussed. It is D, how changes in the microeconomics have no bearing on the macroeconomics of the country. This has not been discussed in the entire passage, and this is something which is not true also, right? Hence, D is the correct option. Now, this is like a subjective question, question number four, which of the following best illustrates the concept of microeconomics as brought out by the passage. So now, in this particular question, you should have a
Aditya, I'm
very
really sorry to disturb you. Can you please zoom in the page a little?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. So in question number four, we are supposed to. So now in question four, the way you're supposed to approach it is by having a very clear knowledge of what microeconomics according to the passages. Right. Now answer option D is the correct option, which says that PepsiCo is unable to decide the resource allocation for its latest factory set up in Haryana. It talks about a particular firm, right? And because it talks about a particular firm, it makes it a micro issue. Whereas in the other cases, the balance of payment crisis faced by Sri Lanka led to the imposition of an emergency in the country. Balance of payment crisis faced by Sri Lanka. It makes it a macro issue because like the entire country is involved. Now, let's see option B. The employment prospects in Pakistan have been far from satisfactory. Employment is the key word here, and it has been clearly been talked about with respect to macroeconomics in the passage. Then, the growing inflation in the country has led inflation again in the country again becomes a macro concept, have led to the widespread protest all across the country. Hence, we eliminate option A, B, and C, and the correct answer would be option D because of a particular firm being talked about. Fifth was a very simple question. I hope nobody got it wrong. Which the closest idiom phrase for the big picture as used in the passage is a bird eyes view. A bird eyes view is like a general view of something, right? A general view of a problem or anything like that. I think this is a very specific question, and I don't need to like spend a lot of time here. So this was passage one, a simple passage with easy questions. So I hope like you got almost all the questions correct. Now, passage number two. Passage two was a Indian Express editorial. This talked about the plight of Sans community in Namibia. Uh, Again, hopefully you would have read the passage. Now, let's see how to like approach question number six, and how you should have why should have marked option C, which is a newspaper editorial. The question stem says which of the following could be a possible source of the passage. Now, for such questions, right, these are subjective questions. The way you're supposed to approach a subjective question is by elimination and not anything else. So let's see how we are able to eliminate option A, B, and C, A, B, and D, and we come to C as the perfect option. a research paper by a renowned academician. Now, for a research paper, if you go through the passage, generally research papers are very intensive, they're written in a very academic language, right? Something like an encyclopedia would look like a research paper. But in this case, when the author is like using things like "I am not suggesting that other people, other ethnic group," when he's talking in first person, that is something not a research paper would generally do, right? So through that, we would eliminate option A, an autobiography by a person from the sans community. Now, the thing is that the passage is talking about the plight that is being faced by the sans community, right? An autobiography would generally talk about the accomplishments of that particular person who is writing that biography, or he would be talking about his instances, he would be talking about his experiences, right? In this particular case, and when he's talking about say his experiences, he will generally not give you this kind of data according to the latest report of the International Work Group of Indigenous Affairs, the san people, etc. He would not talk in that kind of a way, right? So through that, we would also eliminate option B. D, a memoir. A memoir is kind of a writing in which you're kind of narrating a particular instance. Now, in this case, he's also not narrating anything. He's only talking about and he's just giving his opinion about something. So that is the reason why we will eliminate option D. And this is how we reach the answer, which is option C, an editorial, a newspaper editorial. Now, some of you might have this doubt that are you saying that the newspaper editorials can be written in the first person as well? The answer is yes. There, if you go through say the last week's editorials of the Indian Express and the Hindu, you would realize that like say out of 100 editorials being written, at least 5 or 6 have been written in the first person, right? So just because you eliminated newspaper editorial because of the use of the first person, which is I, is not the right approach to go about it. A newspaper editorial would give you the liberty to write in whatever way you want to till the time you're expressing your opinion. Hence the answer is C. Which of the following can be directly inferred from the passage? Okay, inference questions pay a lot of attention to the keywords. When one is a member of a linguistic family, they're required to speak just that community's language. Apparently, no. If I show you in this particular in paragraph number 2, the San people belong to the former language family but speak various dialects, right? So what it means is that this gets eliminated because it is exactly the opposite of what has happened in the sans community case, right? They're speaking more dialects than what they're supposed to. So just that community's language is eliminated. When an idea is actively promoted, it eventually becomes obsolete. Again, if you go back and refer to the first paragraph, you would see that this line, that the fight for equality and inclusion by Dalit activists and scholars has kept their struggle in the public imaginations remains admirable. This line is again, the option is again exactly the opposite of what has happened in the situation. By actively promoting the idea, it does not become obsolete, it rather comes in the public realm. Now, human immigration does not result in the depletion of resources. If I was in your place, I could have eliminated this option just by applying common sense, right? But again, I will show you exactly how this was eliminated with the use of the passage. The Bantu arrival from Central Africa, European colonization, and post colonial nationalization have pushed the San people to the brink of marginal, forgetful entities, right? So, through this, we eliminate option C. Now let's see how option D is correct. The challenges endured by the Sans community in Namibia and the Dalit group in India share some similarities. directly given in the first line, which says that there is a lot to learn from the Dalit struggle in India and globally to make sense of the San people's marginality. So through this, there is something common, and that is the reason why you're learning something, and hence option D is the correct answer. Uh, let's see question number 8. The following illustrates the challenges faced by the SANS community except. Again, pay very close attention to the word except. An individual from the SANS community being denied a job interview on no legitimate grounds. Something that can happen to the community, right? Because in this particular in para number 5, they have said that there has been inclusion of this community on political, social, and economic grounds. So this is something that resonates with that kind of exclusion, where you're just being denied a job on no legitimate grounds and on no legitimate reasons are being given. B. An individual belonging to the SANS community is denied membership in the public library. Again, social exclusion. Option D. An individual belonging to the SANS community along with his family shifted to a place away from the mainstream town. This is also a kind of social exclusion. Now let's see. An individual belonging to the SANS community has been promised universal coverage by the Namibian government. No, this is not a case of exclusion, rather, this is a case of inclusion, right? Hence, C is the correct option, whereas A, B, and D they get eliminated. Okay, now the main objective, rather the main point question. What is the like the what does the passage tend to do? To do it's so the correct answer in this case is option C. Let's see option A. To do a comparative analysis between the challenges faced by SANS community in Namibia and the Dalit community in India. This particular phrase, a comparative analysis, is the reason why we eliminate option A. There has been no comparison that has been made with respect to Dalit community and the SANS community. And even if the comparison was made, it just serves like a some part of the passage, right? Only one para has been devoted to it. Whereas the main objective is something that will go from the first para to the last para, right? So this is the reason why we eliminate option A. B. To acquaint the reader with the various consequences of marginalization faced by different communities all across the world. It's too broad. The reason it is too broad is because ultimately he's only talking about the SANS community marginalization and not all various different communities of the world. So that makes it a bit problematic, hence B is eliminated. C. To shed light on the plight of the SANS community members and promote peaceful coexistence. Yes, something that basically captures the main essence of what is being talked about. The reason why we eliminate option D is to explain how the government intervention in Namibia has been unsuccessful. You may feel that option D is like a close option, but again, the thing with government intervention is that it only is being talked about in the sixth passage, right? There is no mention of government intervention in para 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that is the reason why it is not the main objective or the or the central idea of the passage. That is the reason why we eliminate option D. C is the correct option. Which of the following cannot be inferred? It is possible to access whether a government policy has yielded substantial results or not. This is something that is being inferred when the author makes this claim that this explains the limited success that government intervention has yielded despite the allocation of resources and official recognition of SAN as a development priority. This is clearly inferable. It is reasonable to apply what is learned from one country's experience to another circumstances. Yes, this is something we can infer from the Dalit community example that has been talked about in the passage. Option D. A particular community may occasionally be associated with a tag by virtue of certain attributes that are given to it. When the author says that this community has been subjected to popular stereotypes as being incapable, unreliable, childlike, and drunken, this is something that we can infer in option D. However, In option C, if not for the marginalization, the SANS community is inherently reliable, competent, and sober. In this case, what you are doing is you are playing the exact opposite of what is being said in this particular line, which may not be the case, right? You might be stereotyping somebody as something, but that does not mean just because you're stereotyping, he's exactly the opposite of what you're stereotyping him as, right? So this is a case of illegal negation, right? We'll talk more about illegal negation in the upcoming classes that NLTI will organize for you. But this is a case of illegal negation, and hence this is something that cannot be inferred from the passage. Right. So this was passage two. It was a very good passage. I would say that it was a moderate level passage, and hopefully 3 to 4 right answers in this would have like done the job for you. Now, I'll be a bit quicker with the remaining 4 passages because I have already given you like a gist of how we will approach the passages. So this is again like the Washington Post passage about the iPhone launch. Uh, a very long passage, but like it's comparatively very easy to read, so you could probably read it like a bit faster. Let's go to the questions now. What would be the most reasonable explanation for Samsung, the only company among the top 5 producers to have an increase in sales as compared to the previous year? This line has been directly given in this case, in this particular part. Larger rival Samsung Electronics and Co. was the only top 5 names to increase sales volume during the period. Now we have to solve this we have to solve this paradox, right? That why it like out of all the 5 companies, it was only Samsung that like saw a rise in the sales. Now let's go ahead and see the options. A is the answer. It is a result of the base effect. Samsung in particular faced a bad previous year due to the harsh impact of the lockdown in Vietnam affecting production. So what he's trying to say is that because already it was so low, the production last year was so low that even this year when Samsung probably did not do as well, it still looked like a increase, and it still looked like as if that there has been an increase, right? So this is how you apply the base effect. So that is something that you would also see in your data interpretation sets, that how base effect is applied. So this seems like a very, very plausible answer, that just because Samsung faced a very bad previous year due to the lockdown in Vietnam, and it affected the production, is the reason why this year they might have seen a rise in people buying, and people buying more Samsung products, because last year there was no production as such. Customers unhappy with Apple headsets wanted to switch to another option. Now, this does not, okay, I understand the first part, that customers are happy with Apple headsets, wanted to switch to another option. This does not solve the problem of why Samsung. It could have been anybody, any other brand also, right? So this is the reason why we are eliminating option B. We are eliminating option B because this does not solve our problem of for Samsung. It solves my problem for Apple, that okay, people are not buying Apple products, but it does not tell me that why are they then buying Samsung products, right? So that is the reason why we eliminate option B. Recently, Samsung hired a new R&D team in order to introduce a few changes to their headsets. Again, it does not tell me a correlation between hiring a R&D team and the increase in sales. So we eliminate C. Due to the decrease in the internets of the country, consumers were incentivized to change their headsets to Samsung. Again, the problem of option B. Okay, there might have been an increase, like decrease in the internet rates, but then why people are buying Samsung products and not any other company's products, right? So it is only option A that solves that paradox, and the other 3 do not solve that. So we eliminate this. A is the correct answer. Which of the following can be inferred from the passage? It is not possible for Apple to launch a new iPhone model before celebrating 1 year anniversary of the previous model. This is something that cannot that cannot be we have to look for an option that can be inferred from the passage, right? Option A cannot be inferred from the passage because in the case of iPhone 14, the Apple is exactly doing the opposite of this. They're launching the product before celebrating the anniversary of iPhone 13, and they are releasing it within the year itself, right? So A gets eliminated. iPhone's demand being inelastic remains constant throughout the year. Definitely not. The passage clearly tells you that it is this 1 week out of 52 does not seem like much, but iPhone's annual cycle coupled with anticipatory excitement makes the initial sales period the most important 7-day window for Apple. So it means that it does not remain constant throughout the year. As soon as the iPhone is released, the initial days are the time when the demand is very high than the remaining year, right? So that is something that we can't infer. Hence, option C is eliminated. The start of the fiscal year is the same for all manufacturers of a similar product. This is absolutely vague. There has been no mention of this in the passage at all. Whereas option B, benefits accrued by one of the competitors can have a positive impact on the other players in the same product market. This seems like the best answer because if you see this line, the entire industry could benefit, right? So people are saying that, a good news for Apple would have an impact on the entire industry. And that is something which has been exactly paraphrased in option B. Hence, this is something that we can infer, and B is the correct answer. Question 13, which of the following is least consistent with the passage? Some people are willing to buy an iPhone in the first week of its launch itself. Something clearly inferable from the passage. You know, when he says that there has been anticipatory and excitement when the demand is high, so it means that people are willing to buy an iPhone in the week of launch. However, in the if say if they would have written all or no in this particular option, then it may not have been inferable from the passage, right? Revenue trends of one financial year have some impact on the economy in the on the company's reputation and perception in the market. This is something that is consistent with the passage where he talks about that uh, how investors also want that Apple should do well, right? So it's something that we are able to deduce and something consistent. At least some people might defer their decision to buy an iPhone due to financial reasons. Again, it says that in tough economic times, many customers can't afford to buy a shiny new gadget. So we can infer option C from this. The revenue generated by Apple in the first week post iPhone 14 launch would be double the revenue generated by the company in last 2 months. This is something which is not consistent at all. The problem is with the word double here. It makes it too specific for it to be true. How do we know? Nowhere in the passage it says that revenues would be double, triple, or whatsoever. If they would have written that there is a probability that the revenue would be higher, I might have considered it. But the double here makes it very problematic. Hence, this is something which is not consistent with the passage, and option and D is the correct option. The tone of the passages. Okay, so the tone of the passage can be understood from the last line of the entire passage. But fear and certainty are rising, uncertainty are rising, and a bit of good news could do wonders for the whole world, right? In this case, let's understand why we are eliminating option B, mild acceptance. No way it is connected to the passage, right? Even apathetic objectivity is also not connected to the passage. Generally, if like I had a doubt personally, would be in option A and option C. However, if you just consider the last line and if you read it along with the entire passage, you would see that option C is the correct answer. Cautious optimism. He's hopeful that something good is going to happen, but he's also cautious that let's see what's going to happen, right? He's just not saying that this is going to happen or I just want this to happen. He's saying that with everything that has happened in the recent past, we will have to be very careful in understanding how to go about things. Positive appreciation, no. If given a choice between option A and C, option C serves the purpose, and then C is the correct answer. C is the correct answer. In context of the passage, the word that can replace idiosyncratic in the passages. The answer is peculiar. Absurd and rampant is something that should definitely be eliminated in the first go. Again, the confusion could be in option A and B. However, we will use peculiar as an answer, because let's see how idiosyncratic has been used in the passage, right? In its cute idiosyncratic way, has a unique earnings calendar, right? In this case, it is being used in a not in a negative sense but in a positive sense, right? Idiosyncratic, when it is say coupled with cute, cannot definitely be absurd and typical, right? In this case, peculiar is the correct answer, because peculiar is being talked about in like a very positive connotation. Apple is known for its like peculiar, it's kind of a unique sense of marketing style, right? Hence, peculiar is the correct answer. So this is your paragraph three. Um, Discussed all the options. Again, it was a very good passage. Uh, Shimla, this passage of like Shimla being like institutions being renamed, taken from the Tribune newspaper. Uh, Question number 16: which of the following cannot be inferred? Uh, Romanticizing a location's history can lead to an increase in tourists' attention. Something that can be inferred, right? Because this line which says that, however, a romantic twist has been given to it, which has gained popularity with the tourists. So clearly, something deducible from the passage. After an institution's name has been chosen to honor a notable individual, it is still possible to modify it. 100% deducible, which says that Kamla Nehru Hospital, which provides quality natal experience, it says that how it was first initially named after Lady Reading, but then they changed the name to Kamla Nehru. So, which means that this is something that can be done, hence it is inferable. Back then it was possible to identify which political family was the most influential. This is also something that you can infer from this line. It was renamed after Kamla Nehru, a hospital, after a gentle lady who married into the most prominent political family of India and died of tuberculosis in a sanatorium in Switzerland. When the author is making this claim that she was married into the most prominent political family, it means that it was possible to identify which is the most influential political family in the country was. Hence, option C is also correct, which makes it A, B, C to be inferable, whereas D is something that is not inferable from the passage. Now, let's see why. This was a trick question because Annandale area was developed and brought into existence in the year 1834 and possessed a scenic view. You would feel that this is also something that is inferable. However, you'll have to pay a lot of attention to the developed and brought into existence part. In this particular case, they are saying that Annandale was one second. Yeah, Annandale was first documented in 1834. There is a difference between developed and documented, right? Something can be developed much before than it is being documented, right? I can make something, say I can write a book much before I get it copyrighted, right? So copyrighted in this case would mean documented. So D is not the correct option because developed does not imply documented. So this is something that we can't infer. So D is eliminated. D is becomes the correct answer because this is something that we cannot infer. Now, in light of the passages of the following statement is true. Captain Kennedy named Annandale after his lady love who accompanied him to Shimla. She did not accompany him. Rather, it says that she stayed back there, and she stayed back and he named it after like his lady love. So A is eliminated. The actual rationale for renaming Shimla as Annadale is publicly known. We can infer this from this line, which says that however, a prominent marble tablet installed inside the pavilion puts the record straight about the nomenclature. This is exactly the line through which this statement becomes correct and is the right answer. C is incorrect because Captain Kennedy, who wanted to improve the situation as a tribute to his lady loved who remained in England, was the primary driving force for the establishment of Annandale. Guys, this is a story. They have created this story to attract tourists. This is not correct. The the reason of like naming Annandale was something else, right? And this is why we are eliminating option C. This is a story to attract tourists and not the exact reason, was not the exactly the primary driving force for the establishment of Annandale. So we eliminate this. All the important meetings of the British officials were held in Vintage Pavilion, which is presently the clubhouse. Nowhere has the author mentioned about important meetings and where they were held, right? So we eliminate option D. B is the correct answer. 8. 18th question. All the options are like really close in this particular question. So, I mean, till the time you were not very sure about the main purpose of the passage, I would suggest that you should not have attempted this question. To describe how viceroys in those days aspired to honor their loved ones by renaming institutions in their honor, no, that is not the main point. Through the examples, he's trying to convey something else. And let's see what he's exactly trying to convey. To describe how British naming of institutions served as a symbol of gaining control of the nation. No, I mean, if that was the case, he would have talked about not just Shimla, he would have rather talked about, see, the entire country being like how Britishers were gaining control in the entire country, right? So, Shimla is also supposed to be a keyword in our answer to describe how the British occupation of the Queen of Hills was strongly related to the growth of Shimla. Again, British occupation was strongly related to the growth of Shimla. The growth of Shimla is not of the prime concern. If that was the prime concern, he would not have talked about the post and telegraph office. He would not have talked about say the healthcare, etc. Right? He would have only talked about how Shimla grew after the advent of the British occupation. So we eliminate C to demonstrate how using Shimla as an example. So we have Shimla as a keyword here. How renaming and designated specific institutions has a direct bearing on the building of a nation's identity. Yes, something that is the main point. If you read this para number 2, it says that that may be in sync with the penchant for bestowing an Indian identity on all things in India, right? So that makes it our main point, and option D is correct. Question number 19. I am not going to solve this question because this is a very straightforward and specific detail kind of question. But one thing, like one takeaway from this question is that these are the kind of questions that you should never leave in the paper. You might be leaving the entire passage because of like time restraints, but you are supposed to attempt questions like question 19 and question 20, even if you are not attempting 18, 17, and 16, right? So it was very simple. You have to just arrange it chronologically. The idea is to be very focused while you are attempting a question like this, and the idea is to attempt it as quick as possible. But one blunder that you're not supposed to make is just leaving this question like all in once. Now, again, a very direct vocab question, question number 20, sanatorium used in the passage. Sanatorium is directly related to hospice, which is basically a synonym for like a place where medical care is being like taken. Even if I could not understand the word of sanatorium, I would have placed it in context of what was happening, right? Tuberculosis in a sanatorium in Switzerland. If I mean, logically speaking, Why will I be in an auditorium or in a stadium or in a convention center when I'm suffering from tuberculosis and I'm about to die? Right? So I would, if I did not know the meaning of hospice, I would have eliminated BCD and attempted and like marked option A as the marked option A, right? Because you will have to take these like common sense calls, that why would somebody who's suffering from tuberculosis would be sitting in an auditorium, stadium, or a convention center, right? So A is the correct answer. Four passages down, we have two more passages left. uh, Now let's see. This was a very interesting passage. I am 100% sure you would have enjoyed reading it as well. Let's go directly to the questions. Which of the following is true in light of the passage? Specific detail, I just have to look how to eliminate the options. Churanwalas typically put up their shops close to schools because students are their main clientele. Nowhere in the passage he has said that. He has said that children are definitely a part of his clientele, but whether they're the main clientele or not, we do not know. Hence, option A is eliminated. Due to the medicinal properties of children to treat respiratory diseases, it is till this part, this statement is right, right? Because cold, cough, and more, something that is reducible, but it is actively prescribed by allopathic practitioners. Nowhere has allopathic practitioners have been talked about in the passage. So B is also not the right answer. Almost all people in India consume churan in case of digestive problems. Again, the problem is with all. If the option would have said some people in India consume churan in case of digestive problems, that would have been a clear cut answer. But the all makes it problematic, right? Somebody who has no digestive problem can also eat churram, and somebody may not eat churram even though they have digestive problems, right? Hence C is also eliminated. D is the correct answer. Consuming particular foods has sometimes served as a catalyst for discord among family members. This is something that we can deduce from this line. Buying churran off the churranwala against the wishes of the parents and licking it off the fingertips is a rite of rebellion that can only be appreciated by those who have experienced it themselves. This is how D is the correct answer, something we are deducing from that line. Right. Now, which of the following is least consistent with the passage? So answer is option A. Though generally associated with the streets of India, churran has been subjected to experimentation by five-star restaurants as well. Five-star restaurants make it very, very specific. I understand that some of you might argue that when the author talks about Mehrotra and gourmet food, there is a chance that he's talking about like good restaurants, hi-fi restaurants. But whether they're five-star restaurants, we do not know. They can be a seven-star restaurant. They can be a three-star very good restaurant also, right? So though churran has been subjected to experimentation, five-star restaurants may or may not be true. Hence, maybe like least consistent with the passage. I mean, but for this answer, we will have to like check whether there is another option which is like very very like less consistent with the passage or not. Churan in some cases has also acted as a medium, like as a medium to bring families together. Yes, the last para directly says it. Shared with family and carefully packed for loved ones, leaving the comfort of home, Churan has been a token of domesticity and familiar affection. Inferable, very much consistent. Not just adults, sometimes students also end up as Churan consumers, directly given in this case in the first paragraph. Then, generally associated with treating indigestion and flatulence, it sometimes is also used to treat cold, cough, etc. This line is directly given in the passage, which says this line: some have even become home remedies for cold, cough, and more commonly indigestion and flatulence. Hence, A is the correct answer. It is the least consistent option out of the four. Which of the following is a characteristic of churn as per the passage? Anardana golis are generally made of sitopaldi churn and tastes like mixture of blah blah blah. This is not true because it was factually incorrect if you check. Right? Factually incorrect, and it's not a characteristic of churn. People moving abroad carry churn along with them to treat digestive issues. The problem is people moving abroad makes it problematic, and we can't infer that. It definitely says that people who are leaving the comfort of their homes, but leaving the comfort of their home does not imply moving abroad directly, right? And whether or not they're carrying children just for the taste purpose, or whether they're carrying it for the digestive issues, is something that we can't infer. Churanwalas strive to experiment with churan in novel ways in an effort to make it more intriguing. This is something that we can infer from this paragraph, this second paragraph. Sometimes the churanwala sprinkles a charcoal hued grit called current on churan and makes it burst into flames with the touch of a stick, etc., etc., to make the offering addictive offerings into performance art, right? All these words imply that he's trying to experiment so that more people come to him and buy different varieties of churn. So that makes it a characteristic of churn. The main purpose of the passage is to trace the origin of churn and churunwala in the subcontinent. No, we are not tracing the origin of the churn and the churunwala in the subcontinent. To understand the various aspects of churn and the impact it has on on Indian society, this is the correct option. In the passage, he goes ahead and talks about how churn has helped like bring families together, how it has certain medicinal properties, how it has acted as a medium of like discord between family members, etc., which is kind of very, I mean, this is like a uh, perfectly framed option because it understands the entire essence of the passage. To distinguish between various types of churans and examine how innovation can be brought into this food product, no, not something being talked about. To disregard all the negative perceptions associated with churran, rather he's talking about children in a positive way. Nowhere in the passage he's highlighting the negative perceptions of the children, right? So hence option B is the correct answer. A, C, and D are eliminated. Which of the following is not synonymous with quintessence as used in the passage? Okay, now the way you should have approached this question is, even though you do not say probably know the meaning of quintessence, the way you're supposed to approach these questions is through like making a club. Because if it is says not synonymous, it means that three of them are going to be synonymous, right? So it's ultimately going to be only one option that's not synonymous. Epitome, paragon. If anybody even knew the meaning of these two, and like if say any two of these three, you could have taken a shot between the other two options, right? So aura is the correct answer, but I am assuming that because you're preparing for CLAT and because like the CLAT expects you to have like good vocabulary, these are the kind of words that should be like known to you, right? These are high frequency words and you're expected to know them. Epitome, embodiment, paragon. Aura is not synonymous to quintessence, right? So D is the correct answer. We have the last passage left, which was a very simple read. So hopefully we'll be able to complete it very quickly. What could be a suitable title for the passage? Something that Clatt can and has asked in the past. The main let's before like we go ahead with the questions, I'll give you the main idea of the passage. The main idea of the passage is that CUET this year performed miserably. However, the person who is writing this passage says that we just hope that the NTA, which is the conducting body of the CUET, improves on its infrastructure, etc., and ultimately, at least from the next time, it is able to incorporate changes that like they could not do this year. So this is the main idea, right? Now let's see what could be a suitable title for this passage. uh, Change the pattern or regret it later. The change the pattern thing is only being talked about in the last part, and that too for like the PG programs, right? So suitable title is supposed to be a question type which should capture the main and the entire essence of the passage, right? So A gets eliminated, and because it only talks about one concern, which is change of pattern, but there are more concerns that have been highlighted in the passage. Okay. Option C we are eliminating. Reduce centers, improve quality. He is saying that no, you are not supposed to reduce the centers and improve quality. You are supposed to maintain the number of centers that you already have, rather increase the number of centers, but still improve the quality, right? Hence, C gets eliminated. D, NTA, it's now or never. No, he's saying that you have already created a blunder now, but at least from the next time, make sure that these problems are not faced by the aspirants. So D also eliminated. We hope that these are just the teething troubles. This captures the entire essence of the passage. He's saying that we know that because this is like a novel initiative, CUET is happening for the first time in the country. So we understand that there might have been certain problems being faced by the conducting body. However, we believe that these are just the teething troubles. Teething trouble means something that is very temporary in nature, right? Something which will eventually fade away. So B becomes the correct answer because he's trying to convey this message that okay, the problem has been created, but be very careful the next time. So B becomes the correct answer. Which of the following is not an underlying reason for the introduction of CUET? Okay. Uh, let's see. The answer is option C. It is not an underlying reason. Let's see how we are eliminating A, B, and D. To simplify the admission process in undergraduate courses, 100% that is the objective directly given in the first paragraph, right? When it says that in envisaged as a corrective measure, uh, and like many students graduating from schools to colleges in so it directly says that we have to simplifying admission process to undergraduate courses directly given. To act as a uniform exam, disincentivizing a culture based on exorbitant cutoffs and marks. This is again a line directly given in the this is rather the first line of the passage, envisaged as a corrective measure to a system based on high cutoffs and high marks. Uh, then C is the correct answer to make sure that all the colleges begin their academic calendar at the same time. No, this is something that he does not talk about. Rather, D also he talks about to act as a corrective measure in ensuring that students' mental health is not compromised. He says that uh, in the passage he talks about that it promised to end the anxiety that many students graduating from schools to colleges and universities inevitably suffer, right? However, technical glitches have meant that instead of its serving its stated purpose of simplifying the etc etc. So it is at so one of the reasons why CUET was introduced is to reduce the anxiety of like such high uh, cutoffs being asked in say Delhi University or other colleges that used to take like admissions based on your board marks, right? Hence, C is the correct answer. A, B, and D are definitely underlying reasons for the introduction of CUET. Okay. Question number 28. Which of the following can directly be inferred from the passage? No glitches were reported in the initial phase of the IIT entrance test. No. He's only making a comparison with about the IIT entrance test in another context. He makes no comments on whether some glitches were reported or not. We eliminate A. B. Undergraduate CUET shall have a negative impact on the conduction of the PG CUET examination. How? Something again that has not been talked about in the passage. Uh, it just says that the CUET for postgraduate courses is scheduled to be held in second week of September, and then the concern shifts to that there needs to be a change of pattern in the PG course. But nowhere it says that one cause on the PG on the UG program will have an impact on the PG program. So through that we eliminate option B. NTA does not have the ample resources to conduct CUET. No, again, can't be inferred. They might have the resources, but probably those resources are not being utilized properly, and that is the reason why they're facing problems in the conduction of CUET. However, D is the correct answer because the number of candidates appearing for CUET is substantially more than the number of candidates appearing for IIT and medical entrances. This is something which is directly talked about in this paragraph, right? A bigger exercise than entry tests to IIT or medical institutions. Bigger exercise in any case would mean that more aspirants are like taking CUET than medical and IIT exams. The tone of the author, all the options start with C, but like none of them are like very close. Author is very concerned about the impact of like poor conduction of CUET has on aspirants, but there's no way it is cynical or like censorious or cathartic with respect to his tone. He's just concerned and he's just hopeful that things become normal. Uh, so I don't think people would have like questions here. Which of the following is the author most likely to agree with? Okay. Reverting back to the old system of relying on board marks and scrapping CUET altogether. The problem is with like scrapping CUET altogether. You have introduced something, it did not work the way it was supposed to, but that does not mean that the very next year you like revert back to the old system, right? You would want that you incorporate the changes that like you incorporate the problems that you faced this year and like try to solve those problems the next year it is conducted. So A is eliminated because it's like too radical, right? B is the correct answer. Investing in the improvement of technology and learning from this year's experiences. Correct. This is something that he has talked about repeatedly in the passage. He says that requirement of the IT systems, at least network of centers where the examination is held, no time must be lost in making such improvements. So through these lines, we can make like we can understand that B is the correct answer. C, advising all the universities to introduce their own entrance. No, nowhere in the passage he's like hinting towards this. To ease the logistical burden, converting the examination mode to online. No, he's saying improve the offline mode right now. There is no need for you to like move to online. So B is the correct answer. Uh, and this was the entire section. Now I can like take some questions from the chat. I'll just like check the chat once if there are any questions. Okay, so uh, I can like see the Vaishnavi has written English section was greatly curated, very close to the CLAT pattern, score 26.5. Great, amazing. And thank you for saying that that was like good. Then, bro, can you please tell that is 4 month enough for CLAT? Yes, 4 months are more than enough for CLAT if you are studying regularly and you have your concepts cleared. Aren't memoirs written in the first person too? Memoirs are written in the first person too. However, they are more narrative in nature, right? In this case, he's not narrating anything. So that is the reason why I would say that that was not like a case of memoirs. Um, I got 10 in English, attempted only two passages. That means that you have a very good accuracy. Just try and like attempt more questions. What is the correct way to do vocab from newspapers, synonyms, and antonyms? Is it going to help doing artsy? Yes. Just like learn new words daily and read editorials, it would definitely help. Should we refer to all the options back to the passage like it takes a lot of time? No, this I mean I was eliminating all the options because I mean had to like do an entire analysis of the paper. But like once you start getting the hang of the paper, it means that you can just like look for the best possible answer and mark it. Don't waste a lot of time in like eliminating all the options. um, for CR and RC, I'm referring GMAT stuff, but which are in context of CLAT, I am thinking to do. Okay, so I would suggest that if you're not very comfortable with attempting GMAT or LSAT passages right now, just focus on your mocks, like just attempt good test series, and you would be like more than comfortable. Just don't like go after GMAT and LSAT just because everybody else is going. Uh, I think that's it from my side. I can just summarize what were the takeaways from this particular section, and then Kevin can take over the DI section. Right? So I have gone through all the questions. The summary would be that read the questions very carefully, right? Don't make the mistake of like leaving the except or not reading not and something like that. Never leave the easy questions, right? So you have to be very careful with not leaving the easy questions. Second, focus on the questions than the passage. Just because you think it is a difficult read does not make the questions, does not imply that the questions are also going to be difficult, right? So what you need to make sure is that though you might feel that the read is difficult, but still go and try to find the answers of the questions. Just because you feel ki I am not able to like interpret or comprehend this passage, don't leave the questions like just because you think that nahi hoga. Don't be too presumptuous. Yeah, be very careful of that. Try to eliminate options. Just don't mark in like just don't mark answers for the sake of it. Illegal negation is something that we will talk about in CR classes, and look for the warning words. Warning words here would mean no, some, all, that have a clear impact on the answer that you are going to choose. So that's it from my side. I hope you enjoyed the English section. Uh, we hope like all of you enroll for the test series that NLTI is offering, and so that we can give you like more variety of such passages. And that's it. I'll pass it to Kevin and Anish.
Right. Thank you so much, Aditya, for this very enlightening session. Really appreciate your approach to solve questions. Great, man. Great. I think you can leave the session, Aditya. Kevin will take over. So, guys, your favorite mentor, Kevin, is here. The the person whom you consider the best at NLTI, and the credits go to him for all the creative stuff that he did in the math section, and all the names that he put in there. Kevin, you can take it up from here. I'll should I add your screen to the stream?
Yeah, yeah.
The
Wait,
screen shows
just a
the
minute.
YouTube thing only right now. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, cool.
yeah. Now it should show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can hear me, by the way, right?
What should I give you?
You can hear me, right?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Um. Okay. Yeah. Fine. Um. Okay. Fine. Let's start with the maths part. So like this math section was pretty easy actually. So like most of the concepts here are just simple ratio proportion. Like you can see over here, it's ratio proportion and percentages. So that's pretty much like if you know these two concepts, you would pretty much be able to solve all 15 of these questions here. In fact, this question 6 to 10 is purely just percentages. And yeah, okay, fine. Over here, this was, I think, you could say slightly harder, and this was based on profit and loss. But overall, maths mock section is like easy. It was easy. Um, so anyway, I'll start explaining. Okay, so one thing before you do maths, I mean, I did my maths last. It was my last section, and so. Um, when I used to come to maths, I only had like 15 to 10 minutes left. So when you have 15 to 10 minutes left and you like arrive at math section, you need to also choose which passage to do first. Again, there are three passages here. I mean, since I made this, like I know that all three are easy, but when you come here, when you open the math section of the booklet, you won't know which passage to do first, which one's easy, right? So um, I mean, ideally, like in this case, all three of them were easy. So it wouldn't matter which one you choose. But when you do come to the math section, don't immediately just start with the first one. I think that's a big mistake. You have to first look through, like have like a 10-second glance at all three questions. You need to like look through all three questions and then choose between which one you would want to do. For example, this is a ratio proportion question as well as like it involves ratios as well as percentages, and it looks like it will take quite some time because you would have to calculate the monthly wage of Ganesh and then the monthly wage of Rishabh and then find the difference between both of them. So then like so you need to have the ability to like glance through a maths mock and a maths sectional passage and tell whether it's difficult or not, or like whether this should be given higher priority or not. You need to ideally be choosing the easiest one to the hardest one, because in most scenarios you wouldn't be doing all 15 questions. I mean, you've been writing mocks, you would probably know this. So for example, over here, this has like only percentages, and it's, I mean, as if you can look over here also, like it's pretty much only a percentage question. So everything you'll be doing here is just percentages. But again, it's cumbersome because you have to find the marks scored by all the students, so you'll have a lot of addition and lot of percentage doing. So like you should have some idea about like how much time you're going to take for a certain passage. For example, like um, let's see. Okay, over here itself, I think this is a good question to like show you what I'm trying to say. Over here, it says half of the average marks scored by all students in physics. So like by looking at this question itself, I know that I have to find the marks of all these students and then average it and half it for physics. So that's quite a like process, right? So then I need to look at other passages. Like, are the other passages easier? Do they take lesser time? Okay, so you look at here and then you realize, oh, okay, fine, it's a profit and loss question. And also over here, this is pretty important, that they've given you selling price as well as profit. So like this graph is not selling price and C and cost price, it's SP and profit percent. So um 1 second. Yeah. So um whenever you look at a graph, you need to know what the graph is actually trying to say. So now I come to this question and I realize, okay, fine, it has selling price and it has profit percent. And so I know it's a profit and loss question, right? Then I need to, I like once I've realized that, oh, this is profit, it is not cost price. Like, so that's a mistake probably a lot of other students might make. They might think that this is CP and this is SP, but that's not the case. This is profit percent and this is selling price, which is what makes it slightly more difficult, but it's still like pretty easy. So you guys don't have to worry too much about it. And see over here in this, 1 second. Over here in this mock, because all three sections were of pretty similar difficulty, it didn't really matter which one you chose. But ideally, maybe you should have started with this, then maybe 1 second. Then maybe you would have done this if your profit and loss percent, if your profit and loss concepts are good. If it's not, then you should keep this last, if not good. And then this one. But actually, like, it doesn't really matter too much in this scenario because all three of them were pretty easy. So it didn't matter, like, in this scenario, it doesn't matter much, like, which passage you start off with. So anyway, we'll start now. So a good way of one more thing, a tip that I'd give you in maths, in quantitative techniques, is to write down the information, because write down the information as if like not every information is necessary, but you see these blanks will be used later on, and I'll show you. So if you know where you're writing things, you will also be able to refer back to that information without having to calculate it again. So anyway, I'll show it to you when we start solving this. So okay, anyway, let's finally start with quantitative techniques. Mm, okay, so here we've got the question. I mean, most of the times, like, don't waste time in reading the question, but this is something you might want to know. Like, that's why these are in bold. Over here, because it's very basic, you don't need to know, but sometimes they give you an income expense graph, and that kind of makes it little trickier. But over here it's not important, so in this case it's not. So anyway, let's move on. Okay, so we have a graph here. So on the first glance you see that there's like total income, there's there's ratio here. One second, ratio, and then there's, so there's two things being used here. So I mean, seeing that these two are being used, you should be able to judge on how much time you would be giving to this question. So anyway, we'll start now. So first question: find the annual income of Kevin. So over here, like now you see that annual income is not given, right? And by the way, before you guys do anything, it's monthly earning here. I mean, this is something you would realize later on, like halfway through the question, you would have kind of realized that, oh, the numbers given here are monthly and not annually. Because if it was annually, then I would be very poor. But yeah. And so look at these options also. Look, one's 25,000, one's 2,000, 2 lakh. Do you see the difference in these two? So these itself should show you that something is wrong. Like the options are out here to confuse you, if that makes sense. So if you had gone with, like, if you had thought that all these numbers are just monthly, you would have some sort of number like this. Sorry, if you thought all these values given here, if you thought all these values are annually, then you would get a monthly income of something like this, maybe. I'm no, not really, but ideally, now that you know that your total income is in now that you know that your total income is in monthly, you would already know that my annual income will be in lakhs, right? It should be in some lakhs. So there itself, you could eliminate two options. See, oh, sorry. Just a minute. Yeah, these two. So just by knowing what this question or like what this data is, I already eliminated two options. Now I just need to choose between these two options, right? So, okay, so fine. Now we've got, one second. Yeah, one second. Yeah. So, one second. Yeah, we've got 20% here, and over here, look, just before you make calculations, you need to know what this 20% is of. Is this 20% of total income or 20% of expenditure? I mean, over here, it's 20% of expenditure because it's under the expenditure tab. So now you see, like over here, it's 20%. Over here, it's 15%. And over here, they've just given you a number. So if this is 20% and this is 15%, so total becomes 35%. So 7,800, this much should be the remaining percent, right? So that's 565%, right? Yeah. So now we know that 65% of expenditure is 78,000, 7,800, sorry. So do we need to do this calculation though? Yeah, okay. So we do 65 by 100 into x is equal to 7,800. If you guys aren't understanding this, basically I'm doing 65 by 100 because now we know that this one's 65%, right? So 65 by 100 into this is expenditure. So 65% of expenditure is 7,800 because we know that this much is 35,000, sorry, 35%. So this much must be 65%. So this much is 7,800. So we've got this. So then we calculate below. I'll just write it here so it's easier. Oh, 1 second. Into expense is equal to 7,800. So therefore, expense is equal to 7800 by 1 second into 100 itself. Whatever makes it easier for you, right? Do you want me to calculate all these and like solve it step by step, or are there any like special requirements that you guys have? These are the comments, right? Yeah. Um, could you guys tell me if you want me to like solve every question like one by one, or no? Okay, fine. Just the approach, right? Okay, fine. Because the answers, 1 second. Yeah, the answers are right away here anyway. 1 second. Let me just erase this then. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so okay. Anyway, I'll just tell you guys. So you would do something like 65 by 100 into expense is equal to 7,800. So now you'll get some expense, you'll get some value, right? So from this value, basically, this value is in the ratio of 5:6 with total amount of savings. So you do something like this. Savings is to expense. This one we know, okay, is equal to 5:6. So then you can cross multiply. So you would get something like 6 into whatever. You can solve it on. This is basically just cross multiplying and doing all of this. Okay, and then after that, okay, fine. Just because I feel like I haven't explained it properly, I'll just see if I can show you guys the explanation. Okay, this is very vaguely written. Okay, so okay, fine. See, from here we know this much is 65% of expenditure. So from that you'll get expenditure, right? And now you know that savings is to expenditure is in the ratio 5:6. So if you know that expenditure is 6, then you would know savings, right, by doing cross multiplication. And so you'll get you don't even actually have to find out savings in over here. So over here, if 6 is equal to expenditure, then 11, because 6 plus 5, right? So 11 is equal to the total income. And that would be my answer here. Anyway, we'll come back to this. So the answer given here is, anyway, 2,64,000. So it's this one. Okay, now over here, find the difference in monthly savings of Ganesh and Rishabh. So this is all monthly, right? Over here, this is Ganesh and this is Rishabh. Over here, even if they didn't give ratio, even if they didn't give this number, we would still be able to find out the answer. because over here, if this much is 58% of expenditure, then these two together should be equal to 58 minus 100 minus 58. That's 42%, right? So this much should be equal to 42% of expenditure. Yeah. So if these two are equal to 42% of expenditure, then you will be able to find out expenditure, right? And once you find out expenditure, you can, I mean, you can find out if you want to, but this is not required. You've already found expenditure that you need. And what are they asking for again? Monthly savings. So now that you have expenditure, you could either subtract. You could subtract expense to get income. I'm sorry, savings. So from the income, you could subtract expense to find savings. I mean, I find that easier, but you could also use ratio proportion again. Oh, but over here you can't, right? So, okay, anyway. So from here, you anyway have to do expense, subtract, um, subtract the expense from the income. And over here for Rishabh, again, you've got two percentages and you've got um, a number here. So, 55, 15 plus 25, 30, 40%, right? So this much is 40%. So therefore, this should be 60%. Yeah. So if this is 60%, so 60% of expenditure, right, is equal to 7200. So that way you can find expenditure, right? And again, the same thing you could do, expenditure minus, like this thing minus expenditure is equal to savings. And then find the average of both of them. Or you could also do, because they've given you 6 here, right? So you could also use ratio proportion, like um, x is to 6 is to um, and so you've got savings is to some sort of expense that we found out from here. This expense will come here. Expense. Anyway, um, so okay, yeah. So, but anyway, uh, let me just erase all of this. But it's just so much simpler if one second, I may not able to erase it. Yeah, okay. Just a minute. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So now, um, just a minute. Okay, some of you guys want me to solve it. Mm, but you want me to show you the approach, right? Okay, wait. No, no. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. I won't go into solving. Okay. So, okay, now here's where I was talking about. Okay, so over here, um, for this question, we had to find out expenses of both, right? Of Ganesh as well as Rishabh. We found the expenses of both, right? How did we find it? Like basically, um, this should be equal to 42%, and this should be equal to um, 60%, right? Do you remember this? So like that, we found the expense for these two. Expense. And from here also, we found the expense. So the thing is, when you're making note, like when you're solving it, you should know what you're like solving down in the corner in that corner. Because over here now, there's a question. Expenditure made by Harshad on rent is what percent of the expenditure made by Rishabh on food? So now you need to know this expenditure. And because we already calculated expenditure before, we don't have to waste time in calculating expenditure again, right? So over here, um, okay, over here for Harshit and rent, we don't know how much rent he has, but then we know that these three slots should add up to 100. So therefore, this should be the remaining amount of percentage. This should be the remaining percent. And for Rishabh, on food, right? So for Rishabh, okay, it's already directly given 25%, and we already have the expenditure because we calculated it for this question. So then you can find it. So you do expense of Harshit on rent by expense of Rishabh on food into 100. So this should give you the answer. Now, next, over here also, the savings of Harshit is what percent more or less than that of Anushka? Savings of Harshit. See, if we now that we know, oh, by the way, over here we didn't know the expenditure by Harshit. We just knew the expenditure made by Rishabh. That still saves us time. So over here, it's already given here. It's given 9. So like 5 by 9 into this. So you could find it easily. And for this, to calculate the expenditure for this, we didn't have to waste time in calculating the expenditure, like, doing the whole 60% of 7,200. 60% of expenditure is equal to 7,200. We didn't have to do all that. We saved our time there. Now over here, they're asking you saving of Harshit is what percent more or less than of Anushka. So let's see. Savings of Harshit. So now look, in the previous question, we one second. In the previous question, we calculated savings of Harshit, right? We calculated expenditure of Harshit, we calculated expense. So if we once we've calculated expense, either you could just subtract it from here and find out savings. We've saved a step here essentially. So this is the point I was trying to tell you, that like when you're making these like calculations, like you're doing 60% of x equal to 7200, like you should know, like after 2 questions you should still know what this x is or what the 7200 is, or why did you write 60% here or 60% here, because it makes calculations much more easier. You don't have to do the calculation again. So over here, they're asking you for income of Harshit as well as Anushka. I mean, savings of Anushka, right? So, yeah, of Anushka. So over here also, they've given you straight up values. This much, all these three is equal to expense. So by using like if like 8 is to 9 is to something is to total of all these three, because this total of all these three is expense, right? So this will be here. So therefore find the value of x, and that's your savings. And like that you find the savings of Harshit also. And then over here, so you could just do the difference of their savings by more or less that of Anushka's. One second, let me just erase this to make it clearer for you. So over here, this is the reference point. Like Anushka is the reference point. So Anushka's savings will be here in the denominator into 100. Let me just erase this. One second. Okay. So anyway, and then over here, okay, do you get why this is Anushka's savings at the bottom? Because they've asked Harshit's saving is what percent more or less with respect to Anushka. Like Anushka is the reference point. That's why she's in the denominator over here. So Anushka savings is a denominator, and over here they're asking what percent more or less. They're not asking what percent. They're asking what percent more or less. So it'll be the difference. You're calculating the difference between the two savings. Anyway, then this is find the average monthly income of Kevin, Kanishka, and Anushka. Um, you can do that like the same thing. Like here's percentages. This should be equal to the remaining percentage, and therefore, like 67 is the total expense. So therefore, 11 like um, that way. Yeah, this should be a very easy question for you guys. I hope it's easy for you guys, or else you'll have to like work on a little bit about averages and percentages and ratio proportion. Anyway, now this is I thought this was the easiest part. Over here, there's nothing. Just to be mindful, you guys, when you first see this question, you guys should realize that these values are different. It's not 100. If it was 100, it would be very easy. But over here, it's not. Uh, Nice tip to realize is, see over here, if it's 67%, for 200 it will be 67 into 2, because see 67% basically means 60 one second 67% basically means 67 out of one second. See,
Kevin, try wrapping
yeah.
it up quickly.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So basically,
Yes.
yeah. um Yeah, okay. So over here, what's a half of the average marks scored by all of the students in physics? So you'd have to first calculate all the marks scored by everyone here, and then average it, and then by half. So over here, you could save time by doing like 84 plus 84 plus 68 plus 62 plus 72 plus 54 by 100 into, so like the sum of all of them by 100 into um, 75, and then so this is your total, this thing, average it by, there are five people, right? Let me check, one, two, three, four, five. So five, and then you have to half it. So this should be giving you your answer. So like this, you have to save time basically. You don't have to write multiple steps or get each individual's answer. Over here, maths scored by Shruti in maths and Hindi is what percent of maximum marks of maths and Hindi together. So they've given you maths and Hindi only. So you just calculate the marks scored by Shruti in maths and Hindi. Shruti in maths and Hindi. Yeah, you can calculate it and find what percentage of the maximum marks is what percent of the maximum marks. So um, marks scored by her by to, total marks into 100. This will be your thing. This is total marks in Hindi and maths, and Hindi, yeah, and this is her marks. Anyway, what's the 25% of the difference between, do you see over here, you can save so much time. Like instead of doing 25% of this, you could make it in one statement basically. So 25% of the difference between total marks obtained by Rushil in maths and biology together, and that obtained by Dhruv in Hindi and English together. So you can find Dhruv in Hindi and English. I'll be going a little faster now because I think by now I've explained 3 4 problems like uh, so Dhruv in Hindi and English, you can find out how much marks he's got, and Rushil in maths and bio, find out how much marks he's got, because it's his basic percentages, and then find the difference of that, and then do a 25% of that. 25% is just 1 by 4. 25 by 100, 1 by 4. Just divide it by 4. You'll get your answer. And over here, maximum marks, they've given you maximum marks and overall marks obtained by Geetika and Arib together. So over here, maximum marks anyway, you won't be calculating first. You'll first be calculating the overall marks scored by Geetika and Areeb. So, so Geetika and Areeb. So you'll have to be when you're doing this, don't just blindly add all of these because it's not out of 100. These are like out of only for these two are out of 100. This is out of, so you'll have to multiply this into 3 by 4 into 3 by 4 and this into 3 by 4, these two into 1, whatever, this one into 1 by 2, and this one into 2, because these are percentages. If you like, once you practice a little percentages, you'll be able to do that, and add them up and add the total marks and then make ratio. It's easy, it's basic level. Then the 10th one, marks scored by Dhruv in chemistry, is approximately how many times marks scored by him in physics. So you just find Dhruv in chem by in maths. Oh, sorry, physics. Easy, right? And they've just told you approximately. So you don't even have to like do the whole decimal calculation properly, just approximately. You should get the answer. Then moving on, here this one's slightly tricky. This is profit and loss, and anyway, so over here this is profit percent, and profit and loss is basically, if you look at it, just percentages and ratio. So over here, I'll just tell you what exactly this means. So when you've got 325 and 30%, right? So over here they've given you, one second, let me just write it here. SP is equal to 325. And when you say profit percent is 30, that means this 325 is equal to 30%. Why I'm saying this? Okay, wait, just a minute. Let me just clear this whole thing up. Yeah, okay. So over here, I'll just write it here. SP equal to 325. And now when you say profit percent is equal to 30%, look at it this way. Okay, now this is a good way of explaining profit percentages. You have 100 rupees and this is let's say this is your CP. You buy something for 100, you gain a 20 rupees profit on that. So 20 is your profit. So your profit percent is 20 by 100 into 100, right? Is equal to 20%. So, or you can also say that your selling price is 120, right? So here, when you say your profit percent is 20%, you're saying that your selling price is 120. So if let's say CP is 100%, then according to this, your selling price should be 130%. So they've given you 130% is 325. So 100%, which is your CP, should be what? Basically, this is also simple ratio proportion. So like this way, if you're able to, if you like understand this, this graph should be very easy for you. So the cost of cost price of article P is approximately, they're asking you what's the cost price of article P, by what percentage more or less than the cost price of article U. I'll just tell you how to do cost price of article P, and then you should be able to do the rest. So again, for P, like I've told you, if something is worth 100, like if the cost price is 100, then, okay, CP. Okay, if 100 is CP, then, and if profit percent is 30%, so like the selling price is 130, right? This should be SV, right? And we know SP is 325. So over here, if you have this, so you can cross multiply. So you'll get 325 into 100 is equal to CP into 130, and then you could bring this here basically, and like this you can solve for cost price of article P. And then you could calculate for cost price of article U. And now once you have both of them, one second. Yeah, so now once you have both of them, you need to find the percentage more or less. So once you have the cost price, you do the same thing which I told you. Over here, which one's the reference article? Over here, the reference article is U, more or less than U. So U is the reference article. So difference by U, like CP of U is 200, right? So whether if this difference is negative, then it will be less. If this difference is positive, then it will be more, right? Yeah. Anyway, then over here, Vrinda sold an article S. So her selling price, this selling price is 196, and who again sold it at a profit at a 25% profit. Find the difference between the profits earned by Vrinda to that of Anwar. So to find the profits earned by Vrinda, you would need to know her cost price. So again, by the way, I told you, like how I told you this, like find the cost price of her article S, and then you can find the profit found by Vrinda of Vrinda. And then for Anwar, he's selling it again at a 25% profit. So it's just 25% of 196. This will be his profit. So then find the difference between the two profits. Easy? Okay, so then the next one, 13th one. Dhanush marked an article Q, which is 60 rupees above the cost price. So article Q is, it's priced at 144 and it is 20% profit. So so we know SP is 144 and profit percent is 20. So therefore you can find out the CP, right? The CP of Q. You can get this. So once you get this, add 60. So now this is your marked price. Now once you've got a marked price, you need to be giving a discount such that it reaches 44% because you want only a 20% profit, right? You don't want any more because you want to earn the given profit. So now you've got MP. So MP minus SP by MP 200. Here's your discount percentage. Done. And these formulas you need to know. Like without these formulas, you wouldn't be able to solve profit and loss anyway. So it's something like I'm naturally expecting you to know. Find the average cost price of the article PQRNS together. So again, over here, the same way, like if you understand how to find the cost price of articles here, you can solve all the questions here. Here, you just need to find the cost price of P, Q, R, S, and then do the average of them. Profit earned on selling article P is what percent of the profit earned on selling the article T. Yeah. So over here also again profit. If you find the cost price, you can find the profit. I mean, this is the easier method. You could also simplify by okay, forget about that. Over here again, like how I told you, like find the cost price and then you can subtract it from the selling price given. So that way you'll find the profit of P, right? Because profit. Um, sorry. Profit is equal to SP minus CP. So this CP, I'm asking you to figure out. But now that you know how to find this out, just subtract it from SP, you've got profit. And then what percentage of the profit earned on the selling article of T? So earned on the, like, on selling the article T. Okay, sorry, it's not here. It's okay. Yeah. What percentage of? So this, let's say this is P1. And let's say you get from here P2. So it will just be P1 by P2 into 100. Easy, right? And just in case that you don't understand how to do the whole cost price thing, I'll just do it one last time and show you guys how to do it. Okay, so over here, I'll just take these values, okay, 325 and 30%. Okay, over here, if SP is 325 and profit percent is 30%. Was it 30% given? Let's check. You don't want to make silly mistakes by seeing the wrong. Okay, fine. It is 30%. Okay. So now, okay, I'll instead. So from this, okay, this is profit percentage on over cost, right? Okay, wait. This might be making it a little complicated. Wait, let me try to find an easier way of telling it to you. Okay, see if I'm earning 30% extra, so let's say my profit percent is 30. So can I say that 130% of my of cost is equal to SP? See, over here, let's say my cost price is 100 CP, and let's say I have 30 as my profit. So my profit percent is equal to 30 by 100 into 100, right? Because it's profit by, sorry, CP into 100. So my profit percent is also coming 30, right? So now, if my profit percent is 30, over here, if you look, selling price is equal to 130, right? Because I'm adding both. Right? Then SP is equal to like 100 plus profit percent. So now, using this like just this much knowledge should easily make you like be capable of solving this last passage. Just a minute, let me just erase everything. Yeah. So now, 1 second. Yeah. Yeah. 325 is SP. Profit percent is 30. So I'm gonna say that 130% is 325 if 100% CP. Now with this, just cross multiply, or you could just do so. You get 325 into 100 by 130 is equal to CP. So if you get that, then you should be able to get all of these questions. So yeah, with that, if there's any, are there any questions? Yeah, exactly. We assume that CP is 100. Yeah, so if CP is 100 and you're saying that there's 30% profit, so you're saying that CP is 130. And so, okay, so if selling price is 130, you can equate it as such. Like I've given here, if selling price is 130, but we're assuming, if we assume cost price is 100, we are getting selling price is 130. But now we know that selling price is 325. So we need to find the cost price, basic ratio and proportion only. Yeah. Anyway, that sums up maths part.
मुझे लेकर जाइए साथ में, हाँ?
Yeah.
take me along. I don't have an umbrella. Oh, thanks, Kevin, for this amazing session. I
Yeah.
hope everyone had something to gain from the session. You can leave the session, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Uh, cool, guys. So it was it. I hope you liked the analysis of the session, and we'll be bringing in more analysis of this sort in future. I also hope that you gave the mock and you liked it. Please share your genuine feedback with us. Uh, and yeah, so if you are watching our video for the first time, please refer to our description box and join our Telegram channel. Cool. Okay, guys, it's raining. Bye bye. Bye bye.